Is up, everybody? Get some stuff fixed. I'm back on Restream. I'll tell y'all the story behind that. UJ's losing against Georgia Tech. We know what's really happening. We know that they saving those players for that big game. We know it. So it's kind of one of those things. I remember the year. I think it was about maybe 6 years ago when nobody could stay number one, and it was Georgia. Then it was Alabama. Then it was Kansas. Then it was just everybody was just letting themselves lose. They didn't care until they got to their championship games. And I think this is what's happening with this one. It's just Georgia's like, hey, we in the SEC championship. We're not willing to have any of our bigger players get messed up or whatever. So it is what it is. But I'm Reggie, man, and right now I'm just checking everything to make sure because I'm back on Restream. And like I said, I need to tell you guys. Some of you guys already know what happened. I was able to, at one point, to do YouTube and Facebook and TikTok, and I can't do that anymore, man. Because I ended up just simply getting on with a black atheist feminist, and she made a comment saying that men were, what did she say? She said men were mutations of females, and that they were no good and all this other stuff. And I just said, hey, can you give us proof of that? And apparently, I guess she was friends with several other black atheists, agnostics, everybody on there, that I have been asking them specific questions. Can you, according to your lifestyle, can you discuss purpose, origin, purpose, destiny, morality? And all of a sudden, the next day after I did that, I went to watch somebody's video, and all of a sudden it says, you're banned from TikTok. I'm like, what? And that's what happened. And I haven't been on, can't get back on. 3,000 plus people that I was serving, all of that was gone. So I said, okay, we'll start back up. But anyway, I'm just checking out everything. Hello to everybody's out there. If this is going to be a very different one tonight. I was going to go through another topic tonight, but decided this was been one that's been on my mind, just really praying about it and talking about it for a while. Like I said, I was just checking this out. Hold on here. And I see Thanksgiving holidays up in my job. So man, got a lot of that going on. We're gonna be praying for families and stuff. Some of this stuff we're gonna be talking about tonight too. Because hold on for a second. So it's kind of a one of those nights where it's just kind of informal, but at the same time we're really going to be hitting some really specific topics and really just talking about some really just to the point stuff. So let's go ahead and pray. Lord, we thank you again for the opportunity to come before you. We thank you for the ability to have conversations and just go through your word, but also just as we talk about love, knowing that you are love and understanding that there's just so many definitions that's been given in the communities and people we talk to, and seeing things that we're seeing now in our communities. It is concerning, but also knowing that there are people that are still operating your love, and still, when it comes to family and marriage and things, they're still out there. We thank you and praise you in your name, Jesus. Amen. What's up, cuz? How you doing? If you're someone, I know she's gonna be like, but if you're someone that wants to actually get on, just let me know. I will actually send you the link so you can jump on. But we're just gonna talk about some serious stuff here. Give me 1 second, y'all. My emergency line just hit. Give me a second here. Ooh, boy, it's gonna be one of them weekends. All right, y'all. I'm sorry. It was the emergency line. Usually, if I see that line, I have to go ahead and just jump on it. Here we go. So, this is one of those think tank type moments. Uh, like I said, if you get on and you want to join, it's cool. Like I said, right now, um, unless Georgia scored, which they haven't yet, I'm pretty sure we're gonna end up giving this game up so we can keep fresh players uh, for the SEC game coming up. But anyway, tonight's topic is pretty big, and like I said, I'm using Restream because um, I'm not going to be able to post on uh, TikTok because I'm off of there. But we're just going to make some things happen. So, like I said, if you one of those individuals that you definitely want to join, you can do so. I will definitely make sure that I get you the link. But with tonight, this was something that I was really kind of thinking about. It's been a couple of weeks. It's been a couple of weeks, and the whole thought was just the whole issue of I can hear my daughter coming. The whole issue of love. Um, and I have went back and looked at some of the posts, and there's Dr. Gary Chapman who has some really great books out there talking about the love languages, and we're going to be talking about a lot of that tonight. But as I'm sitting there, I was thinking through this. Um, I started thinking about how things have transitioned. I was born in the 70s, 73, I'm 51, and thinking about the whole transition of how things have just basically changed, and just listening to a lot of my parents and other individuals and stuff, and just the whole concept of love and intimacy and togetherness and family and all of those things, and how that thing has transitioned over the period of time, including now seeing some of the scariest stuff that if I would have been growing up in a generation now, uh, I'm not really sure how to maneuver through a lot of that stuff. But that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. And I think when it comes to us in the community, understand this: nobody is saying at all, nobody's saying that, oh, love doesn't exist in the Black community or Black families or whatever. But what we're saying is we got to be honest too, and say that it is some things out there that should be very concerning. And guess what? The next couple of generations behind us, I want to be honest with you, I'm really wondering if they're going to have a clear understanding of what certain things mean when it comes to love and family and marriage and even just gender and stuff. You know, we got people right now. Again, that's one of the reasons I got kicked off of TikTok, because of just having conversations about simple gender and just simple roles, stuff that's been going on since the beginning of time. But that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. And so, as I put the topic up here, and this is just very informal. The love language is dying in the Black community. What's happening? What's going on? Um, and we really want to get into it. I actually put together, and I had to make a little correction there, y'all, because it's Friday. I'm tired. But if any cross media members or anybody else wants to just get on, if you've got comments or whatever, let me know, man, because I think to me, this is just something that we really need to talk about. And there's going to be some things that we're going to put out there. That's going to be, just to me, straightforward truth. It's going to be hard. And, shout out to a lot of people out there. Jim Green has been knocking it out. Jesse Walsh and other members of cross media that's been knocking it out. Been seeing some good stuff from some other individuals out there as well. Y'all hang in there, man. Continue to pray for each other and keep doing the work. But like I said, I really want to put together, I got a PowerPoint I'm going to do with this, and I may play some particular videos as we get into it, but I really want people just to understand my heart. What I'm saying is that, again, I have some serious concerns. And this stuff, just going through this, really made me look at myself really hard and deeply, because it's not only um, dealing with just loving others, but coming to the conclusion of just saying, oh, who am I? How did, our Father kind of put me together, and what's my whole approach when it comes to how loving others and everything else, and how to receive that. So we're going to be talking about it tonight. Y'all already know, most of y'all already know where we're going to be going. And, just some of the scriptures we always talk about. Man, I had to get this, y'all. I had to get this because literally, my my Bible's gone, man. It ain't like my mom's. My mom is like, she can break down hers in sections. The one Bible she had, she would like pull out sections and say, here's Genesis, or here's mine. Ain't got to that point, but it's getting there. So I had to end up getting the cover and just trying to rescue it. But y'all know the deal, man. Let's go to 1 Corinthians 13. And I'm just gonna read from there, and then we're just gonna kind of really get into some of Dr. Chapman's stuff. But we're gonna have some hard conversations. Like I said, if you want to get on, or if you got comments or whatever. In fact, let me check and make sure that my stuff is good, because I know, like I said, it's been a long time since I've been on Restream, my guy, and I don't know. I want to make sure that people got comments. I saw one from my cousin earlier, so I'm pretty much sure that it's good to go, but I just want to make sure. I just want to make sure. Yeah, we're good. We're good. So, all right, 1 Corinthians, because like I said, we don't do any of this, man, without going to the word. Some of y'all should know it, man. 1 Corinthians 13, and it's just talking about love. Like I said, the other thing is that you know how you start using the Bible a lot, and then all of a sudden the page is like super stick. That's what's happening now too. So, but check this out. Here it is. 1 Corinthians 13. Everybody knows it. Some people have even memorized this. So it is a, 1 Corinthians starting at first. If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, I have not love, I'm a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give away all I have, and I deliver up my body to be burnt, but have not love, I've gained nothing. And here's the big pieces. Of course, love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It's not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. Um, it does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. As for prophecies, that will pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, prophesying part, but when the perfect comes, the partial will pass away. When I was a child, I spoke like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I gave up childish ways. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part that I should know fully, even as I have been fully known. So now faith, hope, and love abide. These three, but the greatest of these is hope, is love. When Gary Chapman put together the book, The Five Love Languages, he literally just broke down the types of ways that people show love. And like I told everybody, I'm actually going to literally put together a very simple PowerPoint, but there's going to be some things that I want to say back and forth in this that I think is just very important. And I think sometimes when we are having conversations about love in the community, let's just be honest. You can get on social media, and I guarantee it's an algorithm thing. I understand that, but for most people, when it comes to dealing with love, the definition behind it is so skewed. It's kind of frightening. Even when you're talking to young people and you start to really have that conversation of love, uh, a lot of young people would kind of put it in categories of what can people do for me. You even have, frighteningly enough, a lot of young people, and we're going to talk like grown people here tonight. You got some young people that kind of approach love in the sense of just sex, and they can't really differentiate the two. They can't really divide them. They can't, separate them. It gets kind of frightening also when you look at how people consider love as how long it's supposed to be, how long it's supposed to go. Is it just more of a physical thing? Like, what is it? And even as we read the scriptures here, we're talking about even how love is defined within the church. And we all know God is love. We understand that God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. But when it comes down to us as people expressing love, whether it's in marriage, whether it's in family, whether it's in friendships, we got to call it like it is. We seeing some stuff. We seeing some stuff out there, y'all. And I'm talking from the perspective of when it comes to what we're showing young people, what we're showing people out there. Some of this stuff that, like I said, if I was to play some videos tonight, a lot of people will say, "Oh, that's just kind of, a different scenario, and that's just adults being." But this stuff is prevalent, even to a point where, as we might even tonight, we'll talk about intimacy. A lot of that people don't even understand what it really is. And there's going to be some things I say that people can agree or disagree with. That I'm going to say this is what, even from talking as a clinician, I'm licensed in the state of Georgia and Virginia, and there's certain things that I hear in conversations with people, whether it's couples, whether it's families or whatever, and it makes you kind of sit back and just kind of go, what in the world is going on? So I wanted to kind of show you this tonight. This is going to kind of guide me in some of the conversations I'm having, but check this out. When you're talking about those 5 love languages, like I said, this is just a really simple PowerPoint. I didn't do anything extravagant because I really want to just kind of get myself focused on what I'm talking about instead of trying to do all the maneuvering that I normally do with PowerPoints. There are 5 types of ways that people present love. And even from the biblical text, you can really bring out these 5 ways. It's words of affirmation, it's acts of service, it's receiving gifts, it's quality time, and it's physical touch. Here's a couple of things that people have to understand. You may experience all of these, but you don't necessarily just lock in on one. But a lot of times that person presents themselves as, this is the main way that I present love. This is the main way that I give love out to other people. That lets them know that I do love them, I do care for them. And it could also be how you witness other people giving love and just brought up like that. So that's your understanding. Like, you may come from a family that everybody just always said good things about other folks. You came from a family that everybody, was a lot of hugs and holding hands and stuff. That's just how you was raised. Here's where I'm kind of concerned about us, especially a lot of times with a lot of young people. Again, um, social media and stuff like that, we know that everything is not real, it's not true. A lot of people get on here and they exaggerate and they do all kind of stuff. But it kind of is the it's like my friend says, the copycat killer. When the first person does something and then after that everybody else kind of repeats it, but what they do is they try to be more extravagant than the first. And that's kind of what we're seeing. And the scary part about it is I don't think that even when we break down these 5 ways of people dealing with love and how they care about people and stuff, I think honestly that a lot of this stuff is being skewed. I saw, and like I said, I had some videos and stuff I was going to play, that some of these things I saw, I was like, there ain't no way this stuff is real. I'm going to try to bring up some of this stuff and let some people hear. Maybe we play some of this stuff in the beginning. I'm going to try to see if I can find some of these things. I know one of them, I don't even think, like, in fact, like I said, this is very informal tonight, but I'm going to try to see if I can bring up, let's see, bring up one of them. And I was like, ain't no way in the world this is real. Let's see. I'm gonna see if I can pull this. I may not be able to pull this one because honestly, I think somebody ended up pulling it out. Have y'all seen? Let me know if you're watching this. Let me know if you saw this video. There's a video of a man. He comes home from work and he walks in. I guess that's his wife or girlfriend or whomever. She's sitting on the bed with a baby. And so he comes in and he was like, hey, you didn't fix me anything to eat. And she looks at him and says, you don't deserve anything to eat. You don't eat my food. And I'm watching this video. I said, okay, this got to be acted. There ain't no way in the world this is real. But as they get into it, like literally she's snapping at him and telling him, because I don't care about you being hungry. I don't care about you working. I don't care about you bringing anything. That's my food. I cooked it. You eat when I tell you to eat. And this guy is just kind of looking like, like he don't really know how to respond. I'm watching this because I'm going, again, like I'm saying, man, there ain't no way this is real. But as you're watching this stuff more and more, you kind of pick it up on like, wait a minute, what if this is something real? What if you literally got somebody that has got to a point that they're kind of in a situation where you got someone literally telling them, be thankful I'm allowing you, or you're hearing this, be thankful I haven't done such and such. And I'm going, have we gotten this bad? This is a black couple. I'm like, have we gotten this bad where now you literally got a woman telling this man who has gone out and worked, who has done everything, try to provide, she's telling him, you don't get to eat. And it wasn't like he said anything to her. I understand it's a short video. We don't know the whole story, but if we're just looking at that, you don't pick up like he was being demeaning to her or anything else, but she just flat out told him, I done worked all day. I done did all this. You eat when I tell you to eat. And he sits on the bed and just shaking his head like he's in disbelief. And I'm looking at this video going, have we gotten this far to where, as the Bible says, there's going to come a time where love waxes cold. And if you think about how a candle is, it starts off hot and, you light the candle and it gets bright, but as it goes down and it gets further down that candle, that light starts to dim a little more. That candle starts to kind of, it's not as straight, it's not as structured as it used to be. It's changing. And it starts to, that light starts to flicker out. And unless you move it to a different area, get it out of, you're trying to keep that light going, but eventually it goes out. And that's something that I think is happening to a lot of marriages, a lot of friendships, a lot of families that, even the family structure at this point now, when you look at these 5 things, and we're going to go through these 5 things, and we'll talk about those scenarios. Like I said, I'll try to pull up some of those videos. If I can't, maybe we'll have to do a part 2. Again, if you're someone that wants to jump on or you got comments, whatever, please comment. But I feel like we are having a huge struggle, and it's not everybody. But again, when you just look at the overlay, and whether you get on social media and you listen to some of this stuff where you got men that come in, and we've created a society where a majority of these young men have no respect for women. Zero. Like the way they approach women now. And I think, this is just me, correct me if I'm wrong, I think what has happened is that the way that we have treated each other has gotten so bad that we've got to a point where we say we ain't got no choice but to accept it. And so now we just kind of go with it. We don't, tonight I'll say some words and, chastise me later, but literally this is what we're doing. And I think we just need to come to a realization that, we calling each other names and calling each other out our names and stuff. It's just gotten horrible. So literally, when you look at these 5 words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time and stuff, I think until we can get to a situation where we are willing to really try, and I had to look at this for myself and look at how I approach things, how I deal with things. It's going to be some things, like I said, I'm going to say that maybe some people, it's going to be like, why would you say that? But it's just one of those things we got to think about. Some of us have put ourselves in relationships, whether we've been there for 2 years or 15 or 30 years. We know that we had no business there, and we just been surviving and not thriving. We've been surviving and not thriving. It's the old thing from 1970s blues. It's cheaper to keep her type thing. That's kind of the mentality a lot of folks are going through, where now they're looking at the times, they're looking at financial situations and stuff, and they're just like, well, it's just one of those situations where you just need to stay together for the sake of. I came from the generation where if a boy and girl got together and there was a baby, the first thing they screamed was, y'all got to get married. No, you ain't got to do anything. That we know that was mess from the first of all. They could barely handle being intimate, and now this situation come up, and now you're gonna force them. And a lot of us came from some psycho families because somebody told them that we had to get together. Some of us, in a lot of the stuff, in a lot of our relationships, a lot of us have survived because of Christ alone. And I do mean alone. Like a lot of us, the only reason we there is because of Christ. So if he left it to us, we would have jumped ship a long time ago. And it does show you that Christ does work miracles, because a lot of our relationships and friendships and families is nothing but straight up miracle. Some of us, it's just a survival thing. So it's and let me say this part. There are many people that are dealing with depression. There are many people dealing with hurt and pain because a lot of people are beginning to understand and find out that when it comes down to institutions in the Black community, especially in the Black church, we will fight for institution. Listen to me on this part. We will fight for an institution, the institution of marriage, the institution of parenthood, and we'll fight for institution. The question I'm asking, are we willing to fight for the people in the institution that we supposedly fight for? Listen to what I mean when I say this. We'll get people into a conversation or a therapy session, or they done met with the pastor or whatever. And let's say they're a couple and they're kind of going back and forth, and they'll get in there, have a conversation, and what you'll hear them say is, I'm fighting for my marriage. Hold on. Yes. Yeah. You'll hear them say something like, I'm fighting for my marriage. I'm fighting for my relationship. And then you begin to ask them, okay, what about the person? Are you fighting for the person in that marriage? And a lot of times you'll find out people are saying, and this is just real, you find out people saying, I'm fighting for the marriage because guess what? I believe in marriage and I believe in that, and but I can do it with somebody else. But when it comes to that person, we're finding more people are willing to let these folks go. That fight, we're in a society now that people will click you off just like that. We see it all the time. We see it in videos, we hear it in music. You hear one moment, I can turn you off the next moment. This is where we at. Longevity and stuff like that, we're not here no more. And we have more people dealing with things like depression and pain and stuff. I heard a guy the other day say, he said there are some people that I know that have been pretty strong because of a lot of the pain that they have to carry. And this is where we got to get to a point where we say, you know what? Sometimes we just got to go back to the drawing board to figure out what is some of this stuff. What are we dealing with here? So that first one here, just words of affirmation. Being able, that's a gift, a type of love that there are some people out there that literally their words are transforming, and they are supportive, and they say some really amazing things to you to help you feel better. And a lot of it is because they've learned how to say those things to themselves. I have I don't know where that thing is at, but there's a book that, yes, there's a book that I had to carry around, and I was just using it because it was words of affirmation from the Bible and scriptures and stuff. And I literally would go and read those things and would go back and read them as much, especially if I'm really dealing with some pain and stuff. But there are people, when it comes to love, that's how they express things. I guess the question I want to ask, or do you find yourself in your family relationships, friend relationships, or whatever, where maybe you're the person that's the one that gives those words of affirmation, those very encouraging words. And sometimes they're not just the "you're great, you're wonderful." Sometimes it's that accountability, um, where people can be truthful, but they can do it in a way that it is healing. And I think one of the things that we got to make sure of is we understand the difference between telling someone the truth to heal them versus telling someone the truth to kill them. And when we have to be healed, a lot of times you got to take the bandage off and let healing, that natural healing, that the air hitting it, and sometimes it scabs up, and sometimes you got to put some alcohol on it and stuff, because what we like to do is a lot of times we like to kind of soothe things over and just try to make it feel better, when that may not be the best way to deal with it. When we're talking about accountability and we're talking about telling the truth, there's a way to affirm people and you know hold people accountable and be truthful to people without trying to kill them. Some people do this in a way to protect themselves. Some people tell people the truth because if it gets down to people looking at them and who they are and their truth, so what you get is a lot of people don't have a problem kind of those individuals that are blind. And then you go all the way to the other end of the pole where you have those folk that just kind of like yes people. They're going to give you what you want all the time. You got to be careful with that too. Affirmation with love is always going to be truthful. It's always going to be supportive. It's always going to be what is needed. And sometimes it's not what the person wants to hear, it's what the person needs to hear. Affirmation in itself starts from the person. So that person that has this particular gift of love, they're usually very good at affirming themselves. And it makes it even easier for them to affirm other people. I guess my question is, um, how often do we hear this? How often do we hear people now where they're literally saying, um, that I think the society that we've been in we kind of grew up in a society now where I think we don't really understand affirmation versus just plain pride, or kind of so-called throwing words at people to get what we want. Um, and we see it all the time. Let's just call it like dating can be fake. Well, a lot of times it's fake because everybody's just trying to present this part of them that says, all right, this is what it could be. I love this one guy that said his first date, he never goes out anywhere extravagant. He never goes anywhere out there heavy. This first date is going to be park, um, Starbucks. Um, it's always going to be something, pretty simple. He's not doing anything heavy because he wants people just to kind of see him. He's not, he doesn't go out there with the nice coat and the shoe. He's just like, let's go to Starbucks. Let's just have a conversation, and just having those words and being able to give affirming words like, you look nice today. Hey, I like what you just said. That was wonderful. And so when we're talking about words of affirmation, here's the other part of this. Um, if your love language is affirmation, when someone says I love you or I care about you, is that very important? Or when you express it to other people, is it very important for you to be able to say those words and say them on a consistent level? Is it good that you like giving compliments? Words of affirmation are going to be very important because just like the one thing about as Gary Chapman talks about in his book, but even as we just noticed, a lot of times the individual that has that particular gift to receive it back, that's really a kind of a confirmation thing for them. So if you're saying great things to people, people saying it back to you, that communication line gets better. Look at some of the stuff on here. It says, do you feel like something is missing in your relationship if positive words are not expressed? When we get to a place, I mean, think about it. When you're in a home and all you hear is negativity, or all you hear, and let me say this, you can literally hear someone telling you something that's going wrong and kind of reminding you. But when that's all you hear, we have to learn how to have a balance. And again, you do have some people, like I say for myself, and this is the weird thing because a lot of people say you're a therapist. In 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 therapy and other things, communication is key because this is how we're going to get through it. Outside of it, sometimes what happens is you go back to what you're best at. And sometimes we have people that are more action versus communication. And this happens a lot with males. Now, again, it doesn't give the excuse, but this is where we are. And I think that when people hear those words of affirmation from certain individuals, sometimes they immediately go on the defense, almost like you don't normally do that. Is it something that you want? No. Sometimes it could be just simply them just practicing, or maybe it's something that's been there and they've just never had an opportunity to kind of share that. And now that they can do it, they're looking for that confirmation of, okay, that's good. But sometimes it's just difficult for people. But we're in a society right now, words of affirmation, a lot of it is very is everything is superficial. You look good, you fine, you thick, you this, you that. That's not really affirmation. You're not even getting to the heart of the person. The words of affirmation, honestly, also needs to get to who that person really is, honestly. I said this to somebody the other day one time. They were saying, like, I'm just having a hard time just finding somebody or whatever. And I remember they were showing a picture of the person that they had just walked away from. And something clicked in my brain. And I said, it seemed like the same person, like the last couple of people you've been, in a relationship with, they all kind of look the same. And I'm going like, what were they like? How did they kind of approach you? What did they say? And it was kind of all like the same, yo, shorty, you this, you that, you blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, do you feel that they were being honest when they were kind of complimenting you and stuff? And in the beginning, she's kind of like, yeah. And then she kind of froze and said, no, they just trying to, get in. And I'm saying, what happens when they get put in a situation where they got to be honest with you? you know, and do you feel like that would be sincere if they said that you looked great or what you said was good, or something like, oh, you do this very well, or they compliment you on, man, I was listening in on how you was talking to somebody else and it was good how you helped that person to feel that way. Again, words of affirmation for them to also be able to say that you're intelligent, you're smart, and you know, people aren't always trying to lay it thick. And honestly, as the Bible says, we really need to let our yays be yays and our nays be nays. And I understand that that's talking about just confirmation and just sticking with stuff. But honestly, if we say the words that come out of our mouth, they need to be truthful at all times and not be flattering or whatever. Because guess what? Them words change when the conflicts come. And I tell people all the time, there is healthy conflict and dangerous conflict. Um, you don't want the conflict that comes in and it's kind of like a festering virus, or like or like a mold that just kind of spreads and it's constantly staying there. We got to be able to recover. Um, Even as the word of God says that if you've got someone that's just kind of doing stuff that they know they shouldn't be doing, and you leave them to, they gotta work through that stuff, they gotta get through that stuff, but then they do and they come back. If you're just consistently reminding them of just all the stuff that they've done, then at some point it's just like a poison that has set in. They can't remove it, and they're just stuck. They stuck there. um, if your love language is that of words of affirmation, people are going to always look for you as the individual that gives them that confirmation, that gives them those words that changes their day. Even it ain't even got to be verbal. Sometimes it's just writing it down, words of written expression, as it says right here. Does written expression of love, of encouragement, notes, texts resonate with you? If people, remember, if you're giving it but also you're receiving it, if people write down something good about you, or type something about you or text you something or good morning, man, you're going to do great, knock it out, seize the day or whatever. If that's something that you feel on a consistent basis, that's going to be how you receive love, and it may be how you give out love. And again, like I said, you may not just stick with that, but that may be the one thing that really resonates with you. You may do all five of them, and most of the time we all do all five of them in some form of fashion at some time. But you being able to receive those words of affirmation that motivates you, it's like energy. It hits you when somebody says, man, you're gonna have a great day. I also would say, if you're praying over people, that's huge. To and going back into scripture and saying things in scripture that confirms. When you're hearing nothing but junk all the time, and I'm talking about music, let's just call it like it is. Some of this music I hear right now is just nothing but sedative, and it's messed up. And I hear people get mad. Oh, it's just music. No, it ain't just anything. When you just hearing that stuff over and over again, at some point it literally just sets in, and now you got and I say this whether it's men or women, but when you got women now calling themselves certain names now and just taking it as a term of endearment, we already was struggling with the N word, but now it's crazy. So I don't know. As it says, do you feel emotional pain very deeply from hurtful, critical, or abusive verbal language? Notice it's not just abusive or hurtful, but sometimes just being critical. I think some people need to learn the difference between, again, how do you set the balance between someone being honest? And I hear people all the time say, well, what if they keep doing it over and over and over and over and over again? How many times, there's a scene, I don't know if any of you have seen the movie Fireproof, and the main character was just talking about how he's just tired of how his wife was doing things, and he's just like, and he says he's out his father-in-law, and he says, how many times I'm gonna put up with this stuff, and they keep doing the same thing over and over again. Am I supposed to still just kind of forgive them? And the father just looks up at the cross, and he was just like, man, that's unfair, man. Do I have some people coming in? Oh man, my boy Jim, what's up? I'm sorry, Jim. What's up, man? I'm still trying to learn Restream, man. And I was like, man, can you hear me? Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute. Let me see. Let me make sure. I got you loud up. I got you on green. I don't know. Yeah, I got you on everything, man. I should be able to hear you, so I don't know what's up. Let me pull you out and pull you back in. Let me see if that works. Let's see. Pull them out. Pull them back in. Yeah, I don't know why I can't hear you, man. So hopefully he'll be able to join, man. But I want definitely Jim. Jim is, man, is cross media. He's got a lot of great stuff out there. Hopefully we'll be able to hear him, man, because I know he's got some good word and stuff. And like I said, if you're somebody else who wants to join, man, just come in. I don't know what's up, man. It's like I see you talking, but I cannot. Let's see. I got your volume all the way up too. You were speaking, but it's just not showing anything. Try to go out and come back in and see if that works. In fact, can you hear me? Yeah, he says he can hear me, but I just can't hear him. Man, we gotta get Jim on here, man. Y'all pray, man, because we gotta get him on here. I don't know why it's not letting him say anything. I don't know, Jim, man. I don't know what's going on.
Yes. No?
Oh, there it is.
Okay.
There it is. What's up? Jim Green is in the house from In Context with Jim Green. How you doing, man? Do a quick introduction. Everybody should know you, but everybody that don't know you, get to know this guy. What's up?
And what's going on, everybody? How you doing? My name is Jim Green of In Context with Jim Green. I am a urban apologist, um, and issues is very important to me. The gospel of Jesus Christ, which is has the power to save all men, and destruction of false doctrine, cults, and any aberrant teaching that's currently among us. That's pretty much me. That's if you want to boil it down to who is Jim Green and what does he do, that's pretty much it. So
Great stuff, man. Y'all please check him out. His last two videos he did, man, was amazing stuff. I watched them all the way through, and now you got people trying to debunk him. So I'm waiting for their little stuff. So
yeah,
so
yeah,
I
that's
get entertained more.
that's gonna be interesting. Matter of
Yeah,
fact, tomorrow I'm doing a 3-part series. I did a couple of days ago. I did the first part. The second part tomorrow. I'm dealing with John 3:16 and how the Hebrew Israelites try to how they try to destroy it. They can't, but how they
yeah,
try. And then on Sunday, I'm dealing directly with my adversary who's out here in IUIC Bakersfield,
mm,
who tried to debunk me, like you said. You know what I'm saying? Uh, terrible exegesis of scripture, and just a lot of ad hominems and just what they do, just bad Bible ad hominem. That's all they really have. So,
yeah, yeah,
but I'm gonna be dealing with that directly on Sunday, and then, like I said, tomorrow I'm gonna deal with the bad teaching concerning John 3:16 tomorrow. So,
yeah. Y'all please check that out. We'll make sure we post it on Immersion and as well as just on my stuff. But let's keep going, man. And Jim, if you've been watching any of this stuff and got any feedback now, if you want to offer it. But the biggest thing, first thing I was looking at is just words of affirmation that people that, um, whether they're giving words of affirmation or whether they're receiving it, that's one way that people have, when it comes to love, and that's their kind of what they do best, and being able to just, be complimentary to people. But I think the struggle for a lot of us right now, even at this moment, is a lot of people carrying a lot of weight on them, and it just gets hard to be
mhm,
even just honest with
yeah,
folks. And even as I was talking earlier, I was saying that it's not just affirmation and giving words of encouragement and stuff. And sometimes it's accountability, and that's a
uh-huh,
big struggle for some people. Um, and like I said, I'm gonna be honest about a lot of things about myself. Like again, I was saying I'm not my thing. I've always been taught, action, but to be able to verbalize it, and I think that was the funny thing. Is like a lot of people say, "Man, you're a therapist," but again, when you out there in quote unquote real world, a lot of
yeah,
times you just think action oriented. So
yeah, yeah, and being in your position too. And I know me being in my position also as being over a ministry of the street ministry of our church. People expect they think that because we're the quote unquote leaders that we don't have struggles,
yeah,
emotional struggles and whatnot. They see us as Superman a lot of times. They don't understand. Look, if we don't stay humble before the Lord, if we don't stay in the Word, if we don't stay in prayer,
mhm,
and reaching out to God, we are susceptible just like everybody else is. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah,
And it's important to understand that we acknowledge our flaws so that people won't see. Um, a lot of times, people look at us, and they see what is suspected to be perfection, and they
yeah,
need to not see that. They need to see the perfection that's in Christ, because
mhm,
He's the only one that is perfect. You know, and so that just comes with being like I said, being humble and being real and looking at yourself, looking inside yourself, and understanding and realizing that we are all, just like the Bible says, we are all far short and come short of the glory of God. You know.
exactly. And I want to say this part here. It's very important. I know I'm going to shake some people up. I'm sorry. It is what it is, but let me drink some first before I say this. We have too many people in the black community, especially in predominantly black churches, that want a position.
Mm,
No, let me change that. They want a title and they don't
Mm-hmm.
understand the position. I've
Yes.
said this before. We have too many people that want to be prophets and apostles and evangelists and bishops and potentates and all of this,
Yes.
but they were called to be husbands and wives and
Mhm.
brothers and sons before they got any of this. And they
That's
fell in
right.
that. And
Yep.
to not be able to to work in those positions. The family, and this is just for not just adults, but for all you young people that are watching this too. Every component of the family is a working component. You see the gospel through it. You see the
Mm-hmm.
eschatological component of it in every aspect, from the husband who loves his wife as Christ loves the church, as the wife who loves the husband as the church submits to Christ, and the
Yes.
child who shows obedience as we show to that of Christ and the dependence we have on him. So if we're going to get real ministry down,
Mm-hmm.
along with preaching, whether it's street preaching, whether it's apologists like you and myself,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's teachers, if we're gonna get real ministry down, if you can't get it at home, it's gonna be very apparent.
Yes.
Watch what you say and how you say it. Your words. I have a friend of mine that says your words travel at light speed. It
Yes.
literally dictating what's happened in the future and the future's future. And
Mm-hmm.
I got words to this day of things that have been said to me that either affirm me
Mm-hmm.
or try to hurt me. And so we got to be careful of how we do this. And if words of affirmation, if that's your love language, we got to understand that when people hurt because of the way we do it, some people are going to hurt a little more because a lot of us come in kind of got that tough skin. But there's some people that's again that's how that's how they do things. That's how they operate. So
Mm-hmm.
um let me keep it going here. So again, there's some examples here of just even how we sometimes getting up in our prayer life or just getting up, we really need to have those conversations. Now there's a difference between, I need y'all to hear this part because again, I told y'all I'm pulling punches, I'm not pulling any punches tonight. There's a whole difference between affirmation and manifestation. I gotta
Yeah.
hit on this one, man. We have a whole quote unquote mindset here is walking in the church about manifest everything. It's
Yes.
one of the most dangerous things, especially when it comes to how we approach ourselves, because manifestation sometimes will literally excuse sin.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I've seen people turn around and tell themselves, I'm great, I'm this, I'm that, and everything else. And I'm like, bruh, you lie all the time. Bruh, you give up so quick. It's
Yeah.
great that you're saying you're trying to say I'm gonna say these words and they're gonna come to pass. No, you got to do the work behind it. Like just reading the statement, I am open to giving and receiving love. Guess what? You can say that, but you got to do the work behind it.
Yes. 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 And you know what, bro? On that note, man, this is something I noticed too is that that what you're saying, manifesting, to me, people saying that they're manifesting stuff is just a more up to date way of saying I'm speaking it into existence, because I think that we all kind of that the covers got pulled off of that, right? We
Mhm.
know we like, no, you ain't speaking nothing into existence, bro.
Yeah,
You're not doing it. So they had to come up with a more, of course, it's all new age
yeah,
language, but this is just the wave, the new wave of language that says I'm speaking things into existence. You know
yeah,
what I mean? And
yeah,
and so we need to acknowledge that that's what that is, and we know that that's false, because only God can quote unquote manifest or speak things into existence, or to create ex nihilo, which is create nothing, something from nothing. Only God can do that. You
yeah,
know, it's good. Affirmations are good, but like you said, there must be some work to work toward that. You can't just say something. It's just like setting a goal. You can set a goal all you want, but if you're not taking steps to move toward that goal, you're never going to get to it. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? It's just going to be, it's going to sound good. It's going to make you feel good at the time. But if you're not taking the active steps to move toward the goal, you're never going to reach it. So,
Exactly. And one of the things it says here on the other side says expressing your love in sincere words and explaining the reasons why. Say the words "I love you" is important, but sharing the reason behind why you love them is most important. And
yeah.
and again, we're in a society now where people say a lot of stuff,
Hmm.
and you and me, Jim, have talked about what I call fluff.
Hmm.
We put stuff out there, and it feels wonderful and nice and warm, but
Yep.
it's no backing to it. That's a scary thing, man.
Yep.
It's a scary thing.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep.
The other one that comes up, another one of them is, and I think this is where I am. It's a love of acts of service, and it is that working things and doing it for other people. You have these individuals that they can be verbal, but
Hmm.
you're not gonna get a lot of conversation out of him. You're gonna see a lot of more action of it. And and
Right.
and when I grew up, that's what I saw. My father, to kind of give a quick story, I was born with my father went into Vietnam, and he they used what they call Agent Orange over there, and so it
Hmm.
was a chemical, that was chemical warfare. So when he came back, and when I was born with a what is known as club foot. It was a deformity of my right foot until God healed it. He healed it, but there were parts of it he kind of left to kind of remind me, don't I can heal you, but don't overstep. And just thinking that he done the miracle behind that. But then my father, I remember hearing a lot of the stories of where he was doing um, Navy Reserve. He was working at a factory. He was um, still going out and doing odd jobs for people. He was still coming home and taking care of me, taking care of the full family. He and mom had a marriage. They're now 50 something years of marriage. Then
Hmm.
I had a sister. She was hit harder with the results of that Agent Orange. Um,
Hmm.
but my father did all of that, and he wasn't a man that you heard a lot from. What you seeing was a lot of action. Now, it didn't mean that he didn't say anything, didn't mean that he said I love you, but that was his way of showing love. A lot of time was just acts of service, and it wasn't just us. There are countless people. If I go back home and just sit down and listen to conversation, they're gonna tell you things that he would just do out of the ordinary, and he wouldn't even think about it. He would look for anything and anything else.
Hmm.
Um, and there's a lot of people that's how they express love, but also when they receive it back, when somebody does something nice for them, then they
Hmm.
go, oh, okay, that's the way that they even receive love.
Right.
um like I said, Jim, you can jump in at any time.
Yeah.
So even here it says, just those acts of love, doing something that is helpful to your loved one will be
Hmm.
noticed. If that's their language of love, they're going to pick up on it real fast.
Hmm. That's a good. That's I like that too. Um, and that's something to always be mindful of.
Mhm.
Do something for someone other than yourself. You know what I'm saying? Case in point, this weekend, my wife and I are here at the house by ourselves. One of the few times we get to do that because our daughter, she's still with us.
Yeah.
So so we and it's me being off this week and whatnot, was kind of significant because she takes off when I get off at my job, so we can be together. So what happened was, I started. She didn't tell me. We had a conversation before about how sometimes I do. I'm kind of selfish. She just kind of threw that at me.
Mhm.
Okay, so when this week came up, I said, you know what? I'm gonna go out of my way to try to spend some time with her. So these last few days, we've been going out and we've been doing stuff, and I see how much happier she is,
Mhm.
because she feels like I'm spending time with her. I'm taking time away from myself and spending time with her. It may seem like something small to you, like
Mhm.
something like going to the store. Because this is what she said. She said, "You you'll go over there, but you won't go to the store with me." She just brought
Mhm.
that up. And I didn't think of it that way. I thought of it, she just going to the store. She don't need me. I didn't stop to realize that she just wanted to spend some time with me.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So I locked that into my little brain now. And so now I understand, okay, so it's not about it's not about um the fact that she's going to make a short trip or she's just going to be back really quick. That's not the point. She wants me by her side for
Hmm.
whatever the short amount of that time is. That's going to be fulfilling to her. So now I got to step away from myself to fulfill something that she wants. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So
Exactly.
just a way to think about it as take time out of your schedule to reach out to somebody that you love. It's real
Exactly.
simple, you know.
And I'm gonna tell y'all as we get through these other ones, it's gonna get deeper as we talk about it. In fact, Jim, you hit on equality, which we'll talk about that later.
Hmm.
But here's the thing: um, we got to understand as men, men, as Christian black men, being able to understand our significant other, our wife, how this works. It's not just our wife, but with family members, because you can have 7 people in the room. I'm sorry, y'all, man. My allergies kicking my butt tonight. You can have 7 people in the room, and you're gonna have. I guarantee you're gonna have 3 of them that does better when you do things for them. We can talk all day long, but you can always hear them say actions are louder than words. Those are the type of phrases you kind of hear from them, and you get to go, okay. So me saying that I'm a help you out this week versus I took you to work or I put gas in your car or I came over and fixed your lawnmower or I actually cut your grass. That's a whole difference for them. I think the struggle I see with a lot of people and what I hear a lot of is you only did this to get this. And that's hard for some people because I think the person who's honestly trying to do something out of sincerity or heart and they kind of hear that, it's like a punch in the face and they become more reluctant to do those things.
Hmm.
Or if you hear someone say, well, you're obligated to do that. So it's almost like you're saying that the love that you're receiving in a sense is not necessarily something that's real. And I've heard people say this where it's like where you're supposed to do this, and this, not in the place of this is who I am, this is how I show love. This is, because I tell people all the time, you need to think of it as what if that person stops doing that? That thing that you see every day or the way that they kind of do things, what if they just cold turkey pull the brakes on it?
Hmm.
What's the response
Hmm.
at that point?
Right.
Um, do you now, you know, do you now see that as retaliation or whatever? Could
Hmm.
be, but at the same time, it's like sometimes, and we have people that would do that. They'll just say, "Look, I've been doing this for a while. It's kind of unnoticed, so why do I keep going?" And
Right.
we got to be very careful in relationships. A lot of times, that sometimes you really need to take a step back and step all the way back, like Jim said.
Hmm.
Taking a step back and look at it, this whole thing, and going, "Okay, wait a minute, that's important for that person. Let me try to figure this out."
Right.
Um, Even as it says here, it says he, she gives their time, energy, and resources to help you accomplish your goal. But
Hmm.
he, she performs acts of service out of love and not out of obligation. Do we have the ability to watch this word, discern that's what's really happening?
Hmm.
Do we have the ability to do that?
Right. That's well, yeah. Um, I think it's a matter of serving us, getting the idea of serving each other, which Reggie, is hard in today's world. I tell my wife all the time. I said, "Look, if me and you don't work, and I'm single, I'm just gonna be single because I see what is out there. Everybody's out for themselves. They do not care about
Yeah.
the next person. They
Yeah.
really don't, and that's why one of the reasons why I think that we have, particularly in the black community too, as well,
Hmm.
we have a low rate of marriages right now in our community because people have become so selfish. It's about me, 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 me.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna get mine, pick up mine, and go. You know what I mean? I don't really care about you. And it's on both sides of the aisle. It's on
Yeah.
male side and on the female side. You know what I'm saying? And so until it's this idea of partnership, because that's what a marriage is. A marriage is a partnership between two people to say, I want to do life with you. You know what I'm saying? I want to be with you for the rest of my life, and I want to do life together with you. You know what I'm saying? Until you have that between the two individuals, all you have is two individuals. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? You can be married all you want. You know, you can get the paper, you can go through the ceremony, all that stuff. But if you have it in your heart of hearts, made up in your mind that this is a partnership, and we got to come together and work toward our goals together, you know what I'm saying, then it's doomed for failure. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Exactly.
And that's the model that God made. God, look, if we take a look at just look in the garden, God looked at, what did God say? God looked and saw Adam and said, what? It
Yeah.
is not good for man to be alone. And what next? I will give him a partner. That's basically what she was. I'm gonna give him a helpmate. That's what
Hmm.
the biblical word says. But basically, a helpmate is a partner. Why? Because Adam had work to do. He God gave Adam work to do, but they had to accomplish the work together. Eve was a part of the plan to replenish the earth, to build the earth, to create a family, and to have children and build them up. It was all a part of the plan. But see, that's what I'm saying. We got to come into a partnership mindset when it comes to our relationships if we want them to go the way that God originally intended for them to go. You see what I'm saying? God never made us to be actually to be a people. I don't know, people say I'm single right now and whatnot. That's
Hmm.
fine, but that's ultimately not the plan of God. It's not God's plan for you to be single. It never was.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so God deals in partnerships.
Yeah.
He always has. You know what I'm saying? He has always been in the business of connecting people. Why? To accomplish his plan for the earth. And
Yeah.
that's what we have to look at. We have to look at this thing from a partnership standpoint if we're going to become the people that God wants us to become.
And we got to be very careful. And you said you hit a lot of nails on the head, man. It goes back to what I was saying. We have a lot of people that will fight for an institution
Mm-hmm.
but don't know how to be in partnership or be in love or communicate or act effectively with the person in that institution. You have people that will say, I want to keep my marriage, but then you say, do you want to work with this person that you married to? Do you
Right.
want to kind of work through that? And because that's how it kind of works. You can be married to that tree out there, and there's people doing it
Exactly.
now.
Yeah.
Um, I think again the difficulty that, as you were saying, we got people that are honestly, I think they're interested in the position and not the function. Because
Mm-hmm.
the function of I got to deal with the good time, the bad time, the sick, the healthy, the you know those statements that we used to say, rich and poor, sickness and health. You got folks now that as soon as hey, the money got a little funny, I'm out because uh or we've gotten, so we're gonna talk about intimacy tonight. We're gonna talk about it. We've
Mm-hmm.
gotten to a point where, and I'm gonna go ahead and get all the prelude of what I'm gonna say when we get into the language of touch and get into intimacy. We've gotten to a point where whoever we was with 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago, we bring all of their stuff to try to get this person here to be like them in some form of fashion and do things that we think that because these three like that, they gonna like it. We haven't even learned the person. We haven't learned what they desire, what they don't like. We just don't bother with it, and we just
Mm-hmm.
plot this stuff, and we see it happen over and over and over again. And even as that, the reason I brought that up, because if we're gonna serve each other,
Mm-hmm.
that means that we literally have to get out of our position of ultimately I'm trying to, it's about me and it's about what I want.
Right.
Being a servant literally tells you, you're gonna be okay, but I'm gonna serve you because I want to make sure you're okay.
Yeah.
I'm about to just mess some atheists up. I thought about this today, Jim, and I
Hmm.
said it's probably another reason I got kicked off of TikTok. I find it interesting, especially among black atheists, black agnostics, and black anti-theists, that y'all love talking about how God endorsed slavery. But
Yeah.
nobody talks about the scriptures in which Jesus said he himself became a servant.
Hmm.
Please
Yes.
explain, now explain to me that. And then if that's the case, and see, and the scripture says, husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church, that's going to
Hmm.
mean that you got to become a servant to
That's right.
ensure that she
Yes.
is okay.
Yes, and that's a good point too. And this is something that you hardly ever hear out here from anybody. Actually, is the servant part of Christ. We never talk about that. We never talk about the fact that Jesus washed the feet of his disciples. Come on, man. How powerful is that? That the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords knelt down on his knees and washed the feet of the people that he came to show the service that was to render and to be an example for them as well.
Yeah,
We never talk about the servant part, but if we did spend time doing that, um, Reggie, what would happen is it would reverse this thing, because you and I both know that we got a lot of teachers out here that they have the servant master relationship backwards. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
We're supposed to serve as Christ served.
hmm,
You know what I'm saying? But Christ is the master. So we're serving the master by serving mankind, which is what he wants. But we got people out here preaching that you are the master over your destiny. You are the one that is in control. You the one that can speak things into existence. You are the one this should manifest whatever it is you want to manifest. And that's just not biblical.
yeah,
Number one, it's not practical.
yeah,
It's just a new age way for us to sound spiritual. You know what I'm saying? But in the
mhm,
end, we're not getting any results. That's what it
exactly.
comes down to. You
And,
know.
and it goes back again to, if people took on that mindset of Christ
Hmm.
in the black community, and if we get back to that in the church, you would see an immediate change. We have become so I me, I
Yeah.
me, I me. I mean, when we hear people saying that
Hmm.
you serving the poor is evil,
Oh, yeah.
I,
That's
I I know that's a whole hour. When you hear people
yeah,
saying, y'all ain't got no business giving to the poor,
yeah.
and
That's
it's
that.
happening right here. It's happening right here in Atlanta, Georgia. I told y'all, for some reason, Atlanta, Georgia has become the bed space for false teaching.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about just showing love, and when we
Hmm.
get to a point where we stopped even considering others before ourselves in the act of service and being a servant, that's just what it does. Even with the intent of saying, look, I may not even get anything out of this, but I want to make sure you are okay.
Hmm. Yep.
Even when you might be mad and upset with me and bothered, I'm still going to do that. Look at some
Yep.
of the stuff here. It says, do you find joy in doing acts of service for your loved ones, cooking errands or whatever? Do you feel disappointed when you see someone able but unwilling to lend a hand when you need help?
Mm.
Do thoughtful acts of service, back rub, filling the car with gas, make you feel cared for? Some people, that's their approach
Yeah.
when it comes to love. And I
Yes.
see there's a Sarah on here. Um, she said people don't want to try and think you're weird when you're being nurturing. She said earlier, in fact, let me back up here for a second. She said intimacy is lacking in the black community, not being able to cry in front of people, have a healthy confrontation. You're
Yes.
jumping ahead, but I'm gonna go ahead and hit you, Sarah. Thank you for this. It says
Yeah.
even in families, and then she said, I
Hmm.
remember even hugging some friends. They felt weird about receiving affection. That's real.
Yes. Yes. Let me speak to that too.
Yeah.
A couple things. First of all, Reggie, we come from the generation of our parents were raised by post depression parents. Our,
Hmm.
our our grandparents endured a depression when people didn't even know where their next meal was coming from
Yeah.
sometimes. You know what I'm saying? And they got through that. And they got through that by doing some things like telling them, like, being hard on them. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? To try to prepare them for what was ahead. You know what I'm saying? Those were our parents. Those are the ones that sold into us. You know what I'm saying? And one of the things they used to say is, "You can't be soft. Stop crying. What you
Hmm.
crying for? Quit being a punk." All these are stuff that we heard growing up. So we felt like, uh, you know, you know what I'm saying? We better get it together.
Yeah.
Now I was blessed to say that my mother was the one to say, "Jim, it's okay for you to cry. You're a
Hmm.
human being. You know what I'm saying? You got feelings, and it's okay, for you to express those feelings." So I was blessed in that way, but I know a lot of people around me was like, "You was soft if you was crying. Period.
Yeah.
Plain and simple."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's what we've had to deal with also in our one of the things we have had to deal with. We're not allowed to feel. We're not allowed to process emotions properly
Hmm.
sometimes, and we carry that into our relationships. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And we think that, like, because we mark that as a person being, "Oh, I don't want to be around him. He cried too much. He's soft," or, you know what I'm saying? You and that's damaging to our relationships when we need to come together and see each other as, you are human, you got emotions, I'm a human, I got emotions. It's okay for us to feel, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes we have to feel in order to process it. This is where we got to get to, Reggie. We got to get to a place where I got to process this, because if not, then this ends up manifesting itself in all kinds of crazy stuff. This is why
Yeah.
we got people on alcohol. This is why we got people with sex addiction. This is why we got people with drug addiction and all kinds of other stuff, anger issues, beating up people all the time.
Hmm.
Why? Because they have not been taught to properly process emotions. You know what
Exactly.
I'm saying? And so these are things that affect us. You know what I'm saying? And so we need to take that into consideration when we in our relationships, and say, hey, just for instance, my group that I have my street group, my outreach group. I tell them, I said, forget about that. Forget about going out there. I want this group to be a place where y'all, if you need to come in this group and you need to cry and you need to deal with some stuff, do it. And it's not gonna go past here. Nobody in this room.
Yeah.
In the process, I've seen that brothers taking liberty to do that. And months later, they said, "Man, I'm so glad I'm a part of this, because I feel like this is the only way I can come and be myself." You know what I'm saying? Because, like I said, we expected to be big and tough and strong, take on or tackle the world, and we're not allowed to have emotions, and that's damaging to us, brother. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So yeah. So go ahead. So I
And
was going.
it's such, one of the things that you hit is vulnerability, and I think a lot of times, and I need to say this for working with young people and youth, you would think, I'm gonna tell y'all, you would think something as small as what I'm about to say is not a big thing, and people laugh about it and stuff. Even little things like, "Hey man, don't eat that hot dog because you know that hot dog makes you gay," or "Don't act this way because you're gonna be like this," or "Don't do that." That little thing, like I said, it's just like a little bit of arsenic that you keep adding to the water. And over time now, you got people that go from "I won't eat certain way or certain food or dress with certain clothes" to now they start looking at it and go, "Well, it's an emotional thing behind that too, because even if I come in and just kind of let somebody know
Mhm.
that I care about them or whatever, then I get that gets viewed as being quote unquote too feminine. We we
Yeah,
we
you
we've
soft.
gotten so dangerous with it that we start putting certain approaches that are caring and loving into categories, and we're
Yeah.
saying that those things are not good. This is why you got the whole thing of the toxic male, or he's too aggressive, or
Yeah.
she's too masculine. There are certain aspects that are just human approaches to things, and even when it comes down to loving and caring people, again, we find ourselves where even if somebody's doing something for someone,
Mhm.
again, they automatically assume that there's something behind that, or
Yeah.
there's something old. And that's where it gets dangerous. Where do we get to a point of doing something out of love and caring, and even to a point where people feel safe? Do
Yeah.
I feel safe to be able to allow you to do certain things or approach me a certain way? It's too many people who wall the stuff up now, and I get it. We're in a society where a lot of folks have gotten hurt and damaged, but until we can allow ourselves to be healed, then we're just going to be walking around like this and just doing this forever. So
Yeah. 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 I agree.
the next one is quality time. And Jim, that's what you saying, you was talking about it earlier. Sarah says, thanks for sharing this, because I felt like I was the only one to see this. The lack of processing and emotions has led this to apathy in our community and so many broken relationships. We should have
Yeah.
ministry for this in the church for this problem. And
Yeah.
there are some there, but let me say this. Let me say this. We have too many people in our community that when you go to those places, it is automatically assumed you're damaged and can't be recovered.
Hmm.
You're supposed to be able to. This is what Jim was saying before. It's this whole thing of get over it, deal with it, or whatever. That stuff still exists. And now,
Yeah.
even when we have people that are going to groups and they're having these conversations, we would do stuff to the extreme sometimes. And I remember
Hmm.
having a conversation one time, and I made some people upset, and that wasn't my intent. But I told them, I said, we have too many Oprah Winfrey moments where we
Hmm.
want to kind of put ourselves out there and say, I'm hurting, I'm in pain, and everything else. Okay, wonderful, great. Now, what are you gonna do about it?
Hmm.
Are we gonna try to go back and get healing, or we're gonna try to go back and do the work, or are we just gonna try to post this so everybody goes, me too, me too, me too? You know, uh,
Right.
the Me Too movement did a lot of things, but it also did a lot of damage because nobody was willing to go back and do the work again to get
That's
the
right.
healing. You know,
Yes. That's absolutely. And yeah, and that's a good point to make too. And I feel the same way about the Me Too movement. I think it was good from a standpoint of, okay, we have to uncover, we
mhm,
gotta deal with some of this stuff that's happening, to particularly to our women. You
yeah,
know what I'm saying? But one of the things that came to manifested from that too, Reggie, and you know about this, is believe all women, and
mhm,
that was bad.
yeah,
That
yeah,
was
yeah,
bad. That
yeah,
was a bad thing that came out of there, because you and me both know that's a problem. You know what I'm saying? Because that's going back to the Tawana Brawley days. You know what I'm saying? Some of y'all know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about
mhm,
Tawana Brawley and um uh uh um um what's that huckster's name that was on that I don't know why I can't
I
call
know
his
you're talking
name.
about, but I can't think of the name of it right now.
Yeah, see, that's sad. We can't even call the brother's name. That's this um uh Al Sharpton, Reverend Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton. And you get what is that? What is that? That's when the race hustling starts. You know what
Mhm,
I'm saying? And they're using that situation as an opportunity to number one sow some falsehood. You know what
mhm,
I'm saying? And like you said, that's one of the things that's still with us. You know what I mean? And believe it or not, this type of thing affects our relationships too. You
yeah,
know what I'm saying?
yeah,
When we have this out here in our community, it makes us afraid. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like I was telling you, if I told my wife, if I ever become single, I'm not dating. I'm not doing. I'm gonna be by myself on my computer in my books. I'm not doing nothing because what I see out here is frightening to me when it comes to relationships and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy out here. You know what I'm saying? But part of the reason why, Reggie, is because we got this unfinished business that we have, that we don't deal with stuff. We got
yeah,
to deal with this
yeah,
stuff if we're going to, and then a lot of healing needs to take place. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? But you can't. But see, here's the thing: you can't heal a wound unless you first dress the wound. You got to dress it first. You got to dress it. You got to, and put some antiseptic on it. Sometimes that antiseptic burns.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that it can start doing the cleaning of whatever that wound is. You know what I'm saying? Then you cover it up so then it can heal over time. This is the way we got to deal with these type of situations. But it won't start unless we use that antiseptic of truth. That's
Yeah.
what it comes down to. The
Well,
antiseptic of truth that's going to burn something. You know what I'm saying? It's going to burn. But once the burning is done, the healing can begin.
well, yeah. Quality time. Quality time. Jim was saying something about this earlier. In fact, you gave a great example of just you and your wife just being together. I picked up this saying by somebody as I was doing this. This was an anonymous statement. They said, "You hear about quality time a lot, but I really think that quantity time with a person is really what strengthens a relationship. That's when you get to know somebody. You get to know their strengths and their weakness, and that brings you closer. That's what time is love is all about."
Hmm.
And I thought about that, and I said, you know what? We, I think the struggle for a lot of people is, first of all, just time itself. We're in a society that is
Hmm.
go, 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 instant everything, instant
Yeah.
rice, instant phone call, instant, you
Hmm.
know, and it goes back to what it was saying, putting in the work. This is where the communication, this is where the service, this is where to create that quality time, you got to really go in there and go, okay, what, whether it's husband and wife, whether it's, relationship, you're courting or whatever the case may be, family, whatever, trying to figure out what is quality time? What is it in particular? Again, you can sit a bunch of people in a room and everybody goes, hey, let's go to the movies. And you're gonna have, that group that goes, man, we went to the movies, we like this, but you had the other one that passed out sleep, and it's like, man, why you enjoy the movie? He was like, I just enjoyed being with y'all. Um, let's have that conversation. You ain't gotta go to Aruba. You ain't gotta always, sometimes you can literally um I went to work here in Georgia. I went to Gainesville because I had to go to help a child that was in court. And I remember there's this one lane you go down there and the leaves change. You see a normal red and brown and yellow. This one lane for a good 5 miles, it's green, red, purple, blue. And you like, what the world is going on? Like somebody just went through and just painted. And I'm sitting there and I watched a couple of couples that was literally just walking. Some that was riding the bikes, some of it was just, you could tell they're just kind of cruising. And I said, for them, that was quality time. They made that choice to be together, to be in that moment. You saw some families that was kind of checking it out. Um, Having that conversation about what's quality. And again, you don't have to do anything major. Sometimes it could just be sitting there, playing a video game, or watching the kids play, or
Hmm.
sometimes it's just cooking.
Hmm.
Some of us,
Yeah.
you go in there and you could probably make a big mess out of something. You didn't follow the recipe, but you took the time.
Yeah.
Um, I know some people that's what they do on the weekend. They say, hey man, we're gonna cook a new recipe, we're gonna get together, and then we're
Yeah.
gonna sit there and test it out. We're gonna say yay and nay. If we like it, that's gonna go in our little book.
Yeah.
Um, Here it says, do you feel most loved when someone spends focused, uninterrupted time with you? Do you make space in your life to prioritize quality time with loved ones? Now I'm gonna tell you again. I went through this PowerPoint, and some of this stuff was just like, Reggie, you
Hmm.
screwing up.
Yeah.
We, like you said earlier, we come from, and I think this is where the accent. In fact, let me say this part again. When you got these 5 love languages, again, you're not gonna. That's the only one you do. You're gonna have a mixture, but you're gonna have some that you master. This is what you kind of do. This is who you are.
Yeah.
There's also other side to that where you got to learn how to have that balance, because you may be with someone that acts of service is not their thing. They think could
Yes.
be quality time. And now as an
Right.
actor, you got to sit here and go, okay, how do I in this relationship, how
Hmm.
do I grant them or give them the thing that they desire? And again, that's ministry, serving, and that means getting to know that person, listening to their person, understanding them. Because for some of us, we're not going to present it right out there in front. You know, we
Right.
came to the dance with that date that we spent the hundred something dollars on trying to impress them, and then everything changed,
Hmm.
and there was some expectation at that time, like, oh, this person's gonna do this, and then all of a sudden it just cold turkey stopped. And now
Yeah.
he's like, what happened? We got to have that conversation. Um, do you believe quality time facilitates greater trust and understanding in relationships? That's a
Yep.
big
Yep.
one. I'm gonna tell you, I can't watch certain movies.
Hmm.
It's a struggle. Like romantic movies is a struggle. You know, especially if it's anything from the 80s. I just I struggle. But here, Sarah said, I think quality time should not have cell phone time.
Hmm.
It tells me the person is mentally checked. Oh, Lord. Let me say this. We got whole generations of young people that if you tell them they got to put themselves out, I think it was a video that came out the other day where the parent took the girl in and told her she was gonna turn her cell phone out, and the girl ended up like almost trying to hit mom and kick the window out,
Hmm.
and people was like, oh, that no, that's exaggeration. And I looked at some folks, I said, I deal with that every day.
Yeah.
You know, um,
Hmm.
if you came in like a lot of Thanksgiving dinners probably was, all right, ain't nobody eating till y'all put your cell phones up.
That's right.
It probably
Yeah.
took 15, 20 minutes because you had that one child and some
Hmm.
adults that just it's become
Yeah.
their world now.
Yep. That's true. Yeah, and that goes with that well, because the world is changing. It's different than the world we grew up in, Reggie. You know that,
Yeah,
man, and that's one of the things is that we have become distracted by a lot of things.
yeah.
One of the things is cell phones, social media. What's up, Walsh? How you doing, brother? Social media, cell phones, politics
Yeah.
has sidetracked us in many ways, and also just and I'll just make this distinction: church.
Hmm.
And when I say church, I mean the business of church,
Yeah.
the act of church, the um what's a good word for it? The um
I think that's
uh,
the best way to hit it. Is
going through
is
the
the
going through the motions of
yeah.
church. That's the best way I can pick off right away, because that become, and this too, Reggie, is that it's very easy to look and sound and act like something that you're really not. But
Hmm.
because there's a perception going on, you
Hmm.
I have to be a certain way. I have
Yeah.
to be a certain way. So when you're around, quote unquote, whoever those people are, I got to show them something.
Yeah.
But the real me is something else.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, we got to be authentic. We got to be real. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? In everything. And I think a lot of that realness starts with, what is our relationship with God like first?
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? If we can line up with that, line our heart up with the heart of God, it's gonna cut away a lot of stuff, because it starts happening. You start changing.
Yeah.
When you line up with God, God starts changing you, and then and that change goes out to other people, the people around you. But it starts with you. It starts with our relationship, you know what I'm saying, with you and God. That's where
Yeah.
it starts. You know what I'm saying? And we need to work really hard on becoming what God wants us to be, and not what the Fifth Avenue Baptist Church expect me to be. You
Exactly.
understand what I'm saying? Or what pastor such and such expect me to be. You follow what I'm saying? Or prophet such and such, or apostle such and such. See, we got God, to answer to first, okay?
Hmm.
Above all men. We spending too much time worrying about what. men think of us, and we're not really concerned about what God thinks of us, and that's a big problem. That's
And
a
let me
big
say
problem.
this: if you're in a church where the focus is mainly on the pastor and the traditions of the church, and that's it, if it's not
Hmm.
creating discipleship, listen to this. If
Yes,
you go to a church where that church does not foster discipleship at the home first,
that's
and
right.
then you bring it to the church, your church is dysfunctional.
That's
And
right.
I've been in churches where it was all about make sure the pastor's okay, make sure the social pastor's okay, make sure the
Mhm.
tradition's okay, make sure, you have people that spent more time cleaning up and getting the church together again.
Yes.
Understanding that you go in that building, it needs to be clean, all that good stuff. But they spent more time there, and then you go to people's houses,
Mhm.
you trying to figure out what in the
Exactly.
world is going on.
Yes,
You have
absolutely.
more people that
Mhm.
this is why you have churches, and this goes along with quality time. When you look at a church, I can tell you how healthy your church is if it has more females in it and if it has more children in it
Mhm.
and the men aren't there, or if the church separates and says men sit on one side, women sit on the other side. You're in a dangerous situation because that stuff makes its way back home,
That's right.
and
Yep.
and that mentality stays there.
Yeah.
So now you get people that start saying we got to do a couples retreat and we got to do a family day. That stuff should be going on, should be just normalized stuff. And
Right.
you might want to do a theme, but it should be
Mhm.
something that's forced. Like we got to make some stuff. We got to make some stuff happen. It's dangerous stuff, man.
Yes,
Dangerous stuff.
absolutely.
Listen to this. This statement says, "Does focused attention from loved ones provide you comfort? AKA, do you feel safe? If you're gonna do this
Mhm.
quality time, do you feel safe in it?
Mm. Hmm. Wow, that's interesting.
You know."
Wow. Wow.
Um, let's jump to this other one. Receiving gifts. This is one that and I put this on here blatantly. We up here at Christmas time, y'all, and
Mm. Mm.
I have seen some of the wildest stuff in the world. Oh man, when it comes to Christmas and just
Yeah.
really just people's mindsets.
Mhm.
And I think it just kind of starts, I don't know, maybe it was around the late 70s or something.
Mhm.
My dad says it started with Atari. He said y'all made that doggone gaming system, and these kids lost their mind ever since then. And I admit it, I was right there in the middle
He
of
not he not wrong. He not wrong.
it. And this is the whole thing about receiving gifts. For
Mhm.
many people, when they receive a gift from someone, it's that person appreciating you. It's that person saying, "Look, I thought about you today, but listen to me." Some people, it could be something as simple as you went and got them a card, or
Yes.
or you made the card. You know,
Yes.
I had I told a guy the other day. He was just like, "Man, I just wish somebody would show me appreciation and stuff." And and we were talking, and he left, and he came back. He said, "Man," he said, "I had somebody write me a letter." He said, "I didn't even know what to do." He
Mhm.
said, "At first, I thought it was a bill because it came in a big envelope." He said, "I opened it and started reading it." He said, it scared me." He said, "Because they took the time to write it, and they wrote it."
Yes.
Says, to me, he said, "I carried that letter around with me for 4 straight days
Yeah. That
because,
and it's something about when you write something yourself.
yeah,
Let me tell you a quick story. I
okay,
used to be, and if you know my testimony, God brought me out of drug addiction. I was in
yeah,
a rehab for a year, a Christian
mhm,
rehab for a year, and then it was came time for me to look for a job, and it was a job that was like right there, really close, and I went to go apply for this job, and I had went online. This is way before Facebook or YouTube. We didn't have none of that. It was just AOL.com. That's all we had.
mhm, mhm,
You know what I'm saying? Dial up. We didn't even have high speed internet at the time. And I just read something and it says, write a note to all your employers after you leave your interview. And that's
Mm.
what I did. They seen me 3 different times. Each time I wrote a personal letter thanking them for allowing me, to seeing me, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
They hired me.
Wow.
When they brought me in, they said the hiring manager pulled out all of my letters and she said, "This is why we hired you."
Hmm.
She said, "Because you took the time to write out and acknowledge, us, and you. We learned something about you when you did these letters. This is the reason. This was what made you rise above every." She said she showed me the stack of applications
Yeah.
for that job. She said, "We hired you because you took the time to write that. It says something about you if you take the time to do that. Take time, energy, effort, to use a pen, to write in your own handwriting, to write from your own heart. It's different from getting a card. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Getting
It is.
cards are nice. Cards are nice, but they're pre-printed. You know what I'm saying? They're
Hmm.
pre-printed. When you write it from your own heart, it's coming directly from you as a person. So that person gets to know you a little more
Yeah.
when they're reading a handwritten note. So I just thought I'd share that in
Yeah.
the impact of how what that really is looks like.
And it's huge. In fact, if you look at this here, it actually says multiple times, form thoughtful notes, love
Hmm.
letter inside of a beautiful card,
Yep.
um, a box of poems. A lot of this is written type
Hmm.
things that, as parents, kids come in and make stuff for us, and it don't matter how it look.
Yep.
We gonna take it. We gonna be thankful for it.
Put it on
We
the
whole
refrigerator, everything.
the whole fridge. You can't even find the refrigerator handle now because it's just covered with the kid stuff. But
Yeah.
that child stop making stuff. You feel some type of way. You be like, "Hey, you all right?"
What happened to your stuff? You used to
Uh,
you used to make
um,
stuff. What happened?
I think of years ago. I was at Middle Georgia College, not Middle Georgia University. I was dating a young lady, and she kind of lived out, and she was like, "Hey, I don't really get anything from family or whatever." And her a friend of hers got a letter from a family member. They lived up in Washington. They were here in Georgia, and it was just like, got that letter, and she just like, "Man, I don't really get anything. I don't get stuff like that."
Hmm.
So, because I knew the guy that was at the mailbox,
Hmm.
I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna give it a couple of days, and I'm gonna just write something just so she can have something. I literally um, even bought a stamp for it, even though it was just going from one box to the next,
Right.
and put it in there. He stamped it and everything,
Hmm.
and I want to say a whole weekend went by.
Mm.
I went home, I came back, and I remember seeing some friends that were coming down. It was just you're at the bottom of the hill where the dorms, and then you climb up the hill and you see the lunch area. And I
Yep.
see this, she was much shorter than me. I see this little body come running full force, and I'm like, "What the heck is that?" And then I realized it was her, and she
Hmm.
gives me like the biggest hug, and I'm like, "I can't breathe, stop!" And I'm like, "What's going on?" And so she shows me the letter, and she was like, "You don't know what that did for me because I was
Yeah.
having a bad day." And then I go to my mailbox just to get out like stuff from class, and I see this.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
so again, it's those receiving things, and then some people, honestly, as an act of service or whatever, or
Hmm.
even affirmation, they give gifts to people. They like doing this stuff. There's a couple at the church we used to go to this day. We haven't been at that church now for, I think, now almost a decade, but to
Hmm.
this day we, without fail, get a uh anniversary and a birthday card every
Hmm.
year, because
Nice.
that's their whole thing. They want to make sure they're, people are receiving gifts from them, and they get things in return. And again, that's the communication for them.
Right. Right.
So here's one. This is where we going. Let me go through this real quick. It says, do you keep mementos from meaningful experiences to reminisce over? I know some people to this day got some stuff. My parents, there's one picture. I don't know. I think my mom has that in a particular album. It's my dad when he was in Vietnam, sitting on top of an Apache helicopter. and he's sitting on top of there, and on the back of it, he wrote a letter to her. It's kind of faded now, but she's kept that. That thing's got to be 60 years. It's got to be. But she's always kept those particular things. Are you inclined to notice and remember things that people say they want? Like, is that just you go into a store and they kind of like, oh, that'd be nice. I like that, and you just kind of mentally, I keep that in mind. Uh,
Hmm.
do you love? Here's a big one. Do you feel more loved when receiving a personalized gift versus a generic one? And I think that goes back
Hmm.
to what you were saying, Jim. It's like
Hmm.
it's the card versus the actual handwritten letter.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Um, do you freely give gifts to show people you care about them? You know.
Mhm.
So for some
Yes.
people, this is huge for them. This is important for them.
Mhm. Hold on a second, Reggie. Hold
Yeah.
on. Do something real quick. So,
And so while he's taking care of that, I want to also look here. Um, whereas, do you value the gesture of gift giving more than the price tag? That's a huge one. That's a huge one for some people. Um, and honestly, that's something that we got to really help a lot of our young people with. Um, Again, this is probably algorithms. I'm pretty sure it's algorithms. Um, but a lot of times you can get on social media or whatever, and you see, um, it's the clothes, it's the shoes, it's the watch, you know, it's got to be a certain amount, and you see this, and we're portraying this, portraying this, portraying this, portraying this, and now you hearing weird stuff like if somebody was to go out on a date with somebody and they say you're not going to spend less than $100 on me first date, first go around, we already got an issue. We already got a problem. um but if and I give you another story, going back to Middle Georgia. um I remember this and I hope I don't mess nobody up. um I remember it was me, two of my best friends was at Middle Georgia at the time, and there was a guy, he was dating this girl, and I guess they got into an argument. And I remember they came to the front door, and I had a friend of mine named Zeke, and Zeke's looking at the door, and he's like, "Oh, this finna be bad. This finna be bad." He kept saying that. I was like, "What are you talking about?" And all of a sudden, I just see them going back and forth. Like, we grabbed that guy because he was ready to just slap her. That's how bad it was getting. And we grabbed him, and I remember Zeke was like, "Man, just come on, take him back to the dorm," because he was in our dorm, and we walked him up there. We let him cool down. He was like, "Man, she just made me so mad. She just kept saying stuff." I said, "Man, cool down, calm down." And it took him an hour to calm down. And after a while, he was like, he was a freshman. I love her, man. I don't know. I don't want to lose her. Yada yada yada. He's like, "What am I gonna do?" I said, "First of all, you're gonna calm down. You're gonna do that." I said, "Then when you calm down, just check on her." He checked on her. She was like, "I just need a break today. Maybe we could talk tomorrow." And he's like, "I don't know what to do, man. I want to do something nice for her." And I think it came down to something about a birthday. And he was like, "I was feeling bad, and I took it out on her because I couldn't take her somewhere big." And me and Zeke was in there, and we looked at each other and started laughing. um, Way out from our dorm was a big field that had flowers and had a lovely lake and everything. And um, every so often you see people come by and walk by and they have picnics out there. And we was just like, "Dude, you gonna do a picnic?" He was like, "What? Do a picnic?" So we was like, think about what are her favorite things, what does she like, what type of flower, all of that stuff. So we literally took this dude to the store, helped him get whatever her favorite little thing she liked to eat and stuff, and flowers and stuff. And he's like, "Man, I feel weird doing this." I'm like, "Bro, are you doing this for you? Or you doing this for her?" He's like, "Yeah." So he was naming stuff out. We kind of guided him, took him to the room. He put the thing together. We got him a blanket. We actually set the thing up for him and everything. And so the part that I think he struggled with was having to take this basket down there, go to her room, knock on the door, and say, can you go with me? And he said after it was all done, he was like, man, it took me 3 minutes. I'm standing at the door. I didn't knock. People was walking by looking at me like, yeah, you gonna knock or whatever, because they knew who I was. He finally knocked. She came out, and he said the moment she saw the picnic basket, her whole demeanor changed. She was already kind of like, oh, I got to deal with this, and we gonna probably argue again. But her whole demeanor changed. We went out there. It wasn't a hot day. He said what he thought was gonna be just 20 minutes. He said they had a whole conversation. And at the end, she said, I appreciate you taking the time to do this more than we would have went and you trying to get money to go to some fancy restaurant. And I think, again, if we think about, as this statement says, do you value the gesture of gift giving versus the price tag? That's a big piece there. That's a big thing. I don't know if Jim is there, but it looks like he may have stepped out for a second. Um, Here's this last one, y'all. We got to deal with this one. This one where it might get a little, we might get a little aggressive. The love language of touch. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we've lost our minds. Um, but we got to say some stuff here. I I'm gonna say this statement, and for everybody that's watching, you might be like, "What the heck are you talking about?" I don't think a lot of people in our community has any fathom of what intimacy is, and I think that there's a lot of people that will say what it is because they heard it off of a video or something, but I don't think they'll take the time. And another thing I think that's problematic is I think we have gotten how this works in what Jim was saying, the partnership, how that really works. So even when it comes to touch, um, ladies and gentlemen, and I think this is just something that's so important to help our young people to understand. Uh, this thing has gotten so dangerous, and I'm gonna go ahead and put it out here. It's gotten so dangerous to where we have our young men, and the people say, "Oh, they're just playing and making a joke." It ain't always a joke now. Where these guys are talking about, you this and grabbing and touchy feeling stuff. Some of these guys are testing these folks out to see how they gonna respond. And it ain't just the guys; it's happening on the girls' end. You'll be shocked at how many times I've had young people come into sessions and go, at first I thought they was playing, and then it went further because they thought that that's how they were trying to communicate or test me. It went from a hug to trying to hold my hand and trying to hug me. It's those types of things. And I think the issue is that I have to, with the love language of touch, I do have to address, we have to address what intimacy really means. And I think that is so important now because we're in a society that worships sex, and it's horrifying. Um, I knew I was going to take a little more time in this area because I think we're in a society now that has twisted the definition of love and sex, and they've twisted it so bad that now, um, even when you talk about sex is not even sex anymore. It's sadly, we can spend a whole 2 hours on just this area here because, just like I was saying earlier, we got couples now, and you see this a lot, where what you thought this person that you was with like, and then this person you was with them, and then this person you was with them, you bring it to this new person, and you have three things going on. they're going to accept it because they want to be with you or whatever, even though they may be even flat out disgusted with it. You have not learned anything about this individual, about what they like, desire, whatever. You have not learned it. You may not even understand that some touch for them may be traumatic. Sad to say, we have more people that have been traumatized from abuse and never work through that, and then they come into relationships, and then all of a sudden somebody presents something, and they come in full force like, oh, I like, I like this, and I know you like this. No, it ain't necessarily true. And for other people, I think there's, and I'm gonna say this for every man in here. There is an assumption for every man that this is the end all that bees all, and that's not necessarily the truth. We
Yes.
have, as men, and we need to stop playing, and women too, when it comes to, ordained true relationships, marriage, that there are needs, but we got to understand this should not be the ultimate lead to where we idolize. Now it's like it's the ends all that be all. And when that gets cut off, now all of a sudden the relationship is sour. But also be very careful, because even in the biblical text, it says, yes, there are times where you may cut off for a time being, but he says, make sure to come back together. So we got to be very careful, because we're in a society now that has taught a lot of people to weaponize sex against people and use it as a form of punishment. If you make me upset, I cut you off. Or they're going to reverse. I use it as a punishment to show you don't do that again, because it's an empowerment thing. We got to be very careful with that. And when we begin to understand what love is as far as touch, it's okay to ask questions. It does not or should not make you weak or different or something wrong with you because you ask questions. Is it okay to hug you like this? Or do you like this? Or do you need to have that communication? I'm learning out of maturity. Don't walk into any situation assuming nothing. And that's not even just with touch. That's with acts of service. That's with gifts. That's with communication. You could say something to this person and turn around and say that same thing to another person, and all hell break loose. But you have to learn.
Yep.
Um, um, One of the things I think that is very important in all relationships is prayer. But
Mhm.
be very careful. I need y'all men to listen to this. Don't just come in there praying to look impressive, and then all the praying stop when you got what you wanted.
Mm.
Stop doing
Mm.
that. Stop doing that.
Yeah.
It's a great act till you got to actually pray,
Yeah.
because they sick, or they in
Mhm.
trouble, or they got a family member, and then all of a sudden all your praying and all that stuff,
Mhm.
you done stop the act.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Please don't do that.
Yeah. And just on that note too, it's important to um the Bible says dwell with our wives according to knowledge. What does that mean? That means according to, like you're making the point that you're making, you got is specific.
Mhm.
It's not a one size fits all situation. You know what I'm saying? You can't use a one size fits all. Well, Jerry do this with his woman, so I'm gonna do that with my woman. You you can't do that, bro. Because like you said, if you don't know her, what she like, what she don't like, you're gonna run into problems because you doing something that that's a problem area for her. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So the more you know, and then this comes along with everything we talking about, intimacy, spending time, all that type of stuff, knowing that person, so that when you do come together, you guys know each other. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Mhm.
And that's why it's important to do what the Bible says. He
Mhm.
was well
Mhm.
with your wives according to knowledge, and that comes, like I said, like with spending time and all that type of. That's one of the big reasons why it's so important. especially in that area right there too. Like if you come in like Bishop so and so, she liable to shut that down real quick. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
saying? For whatever reason, you're not gonna get nowhere with that. You know what I'm saying? You got to take another approach. You know what I mean? So you got to figure out the approach that works, and
Hmm.
and with most of them, that's not gonna fly. Like you said, if you sometime it's not going that's not going oh now you're going to be bishop today. Well, you wasn't bishop yesterday when you were saying A, B, D, C, and D. So
Yeah,
now what?
yeah,
Now you in trouble,
yeah.
right? So just something to be mindful of.
You got to be careful what you bring into this stuff. People could give you great advice, but as a therapist, I come in and tell people all the time, I can, we can work on skills. I can bring you stuff, but guess what? At the end of the day, you still got to have a communication. And I tell this to people in the beginning, every time I start a therapeutic relationship with them.
Hmm.
You got to, at the end of the day, when you lay your head down, it's whatever decision you make. We gonna put the cards on the table. You got to make sure you want to play this, and you got to take what comes behind that. It's the same thing when we come into a lot of these relationships. Um, we have people that bring stuff to the table, and it's sad to say we have allowed our children to be taught this stuff, and it ain't just TikTok. It ain't just music. Disney. When you see this stuff on Disney and it's got you turning your head sideways and you
Yeah,
want to take the remote and go click, this is
yeah,
I've seen stuff on there that I had to, even my daughter just watching little stuff like I think I think right now probably one of the safest one when she was watching, one of the safest things she was kind of watching was a little blue, and sometimes it was some things they kind of put out there that you said, okay.
yeah,
But then you start getting into the when you see the live action type stuff, you got to start kind of watching that because
yeah,
again, it puts it out there as if ultimately the ultimate goal is to get that kiss, to get it's and
yeah.
it's like no, that ain't it. That's not what's going on.
Right.
We've created again the whole mindset, whether you listening to music or whatever, is that get her in the bed, get him in the bed, and to me, when the women and the Bible even says this, when it get to a point where the natural affection is being completely turned off, where no longer it's like I don't need a man. In fact, I don't even need. We're gonna talk adult here. I don't need a
Hmm.
man. All I need is to go down here to the store, or I can order Amazon and get that plastic and them
Yep.
batteries. And it
Yep.
ain't just women, it's men, and it's happening more and more. And guess what? Surprise, surprise! I have. I remember we did a mission trip to my hometown when I was going to a particular church, and I remember that it was for that night we did a thing for the young people, and it was a prayer time. We said, look, if there's something that's hindering you, you know, let's pray about it. Let's bring it to the altar, bring it before the Lord. And I remember this one particular. I'm gonna change the story up, so they may be like, oh, he's talking about me. I'm gonna change the story up, but I remember this one guy that had he had a fanny pack.
Hmm.
He had a fanny pack. And he brought it up there. He never opened it, and I remember him coming to one of the guys that was with us, and they talked for a good 2 hours. And the guy came back and he told me, he said, man, he said, that young person said he wanted us to pray for us. He said he didn't mind me talking to you because, he trusted her. He said he's had a sexual addiction that started at the age of 8. His brother bought him some sexual toys, and he said he has not been able to start it. He said that man is 15 years old. For 7 straight years, he had been doing this stuff. His parents didn't know, nobody else knew. But he said because we prayed and he saw that he didn't have to do this stuff anymore, he was willing to release it. And the first question that the first question that came to our minds is, was he the only one in that church? And I guarantee he wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And but now that's been 20 years ago that happened.
Right.
And you can get on, I guarantee you can get on TikTok right now. And I guarantee I can pull 15 videos of just folks that just they going crazy with it.
Yep.
And so to talk about touch and love, the two to me, it's so completely opposite to where hugs and holding hands and stuff is can be so deceptive now because again it's that end game. And we've made jokes about it now. We've made jokes about people being violated. We made jokes. It's whole comical specials about this crazy. It's whole songs about this stuff. And it's a question of what are we going to do about this? And it's only going to take Christ coming in, and it's going to take Christ entering into real marriages and things that people can see it and go, okay, maybe this stuff that I'm hearing or seeing, it can't be right because I'm looking at them and it looks so completely different. So it's a question of what direction do we go here?
Yep. Yep. Hey, Reggie, I'm gonna have to break out, man. But this is good, man. This is, and I've seen somebody in your chat earlier saying, "Hey, we need to have more conversations like
Yeah, yeah,
this," and I agree, bro. This is the type of stuff that we have to deal with, especially as apologists, man. When we out
yeah,
here dealing with these different issues out here in the black community, this is
yeah,
one of the things we have to deal with, bro. It's some, there are some hurts, some pains, some issues that we got to deal with, and a lot of times that is actually the stuff with the doctrine and all that stuff. That's a symptom of a different problem.
yeah.
The real problem is what we're talking about now. You
Hmm.
know what I'm saying? All of that's the problems back here is it actually has distorted and clouded that person's mind toward the truth of God. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So dealing with those issues, this is an apologetic issue, believe it or not. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Because the apologetics is the from a standpoint of, okay, we answer these questions before we actually get to the gospel. That's what a lot of apologetics
Exactly.
is dealing with stuff, issues out around surrounding the gospel, and then we can start talking about that. It's talking about the gospel. So
Exactly.
this is definitely a conversation that must be had. And I appreciate you allowing me to come on, my brother. And we, yeah, like I said, we gotta have more of these. And I appreciate these, man. Every time I see him, I come on here and check you out, man. These are very important, uh,
Exactly. Exactly.
particularly in our community right now. So keep doing your thing, my brother.
And Jim, before you get off real quick, tell them where they can find you, sir.
You can find me on Facebook, facebook.com/JL Green. And also you can find me on YouTube at youtube.com/in context with Jim Green. Those are the two primary places where you're going to find me out here in the social media sphere doing what I do.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So thank you, Jim, for joining us, man. I know you got to go, but y'all make sure y'all check him out. Please add him on. Check out some of his stuff. He's
Yes.
got a plethora of a library of good stuff out there. So y'all make sure y'all check him out.
Yes. God bless y'all. Y'all have a good evening.
All right, sir. Thank you for coming on. And as we get ready to wrap it up, I think again it's just so important to be able um, to realize that for us as and again I'm going to talk from the perspective of a man. The reality is for many of us it is again the receiving of touch is so important. It's that affirmation. And we hear a lot of time people talk about for a man it's respect, it's respect. The ability to feel that hug, and we see this with our children when the child comes and hugs us or grabs our leg and we're trying to go to work and they're like, daddy, don't go anywhere. Those moments are important, all the way up to the son who gives us a hug because he was glad that his dad was there to watch him hit that winning, um, catch that winning football, or the one that was in wrestling. He was able to get that pin all the way to affirmation from his wife that gives him a hug, or from intimacy between themselves, and they're able to just really enjoy each other, and they didn't bring anything else to the table. They didn't need the pornography, they didn't need all this other. They learned each other to the parents, who the older parents who grab the arms of that person and walk with them, because they were there to support them. Now they're at, you know receiving that from them. As you can see here, it says, does gentle touch like caresses make you feel cared for and understood? For some people, that is, it's love for them. When you be very careful in marriages and stuff if you get to a place where you have stopped touch. There are some circumstances, and this way you got to be very careful too. There are circumstances for some people from a physical standpoint. Maybe there's an illness or something. This is again where communication happens between the couple. Um, and I know some families where they have to be very careful how they touch certain individuals because there was a skin condition, or there's some nerve stuff going on. So that it comes down to, again, communication. And as much as they desire and long for touch, what they do is they create compromises. Um, you don't find them going out to find other ways, and that's a danger where the person goes, oh, because you didn't reciprocate, you didn't give me what I need, so I'm gonna go out. That's a danger. And guess what? The enemy will set you up like that. He'll set you up like that. But you also got to be very careful, because some people don't realize that they've created that scenario, and are very quick to blame the other person, but don't realize that, well, yeah, there's some things that came up, but remember, again, if there's this partnership, the partners learn how to try to fix the thing. Because sometimes people give up. Sometimes people go, you know what? Okay, all right. And this is where we got to be so careful. Look at some of this stuff. Do you instinctively crave physical closeness like hugs or hand holding with loved ones? Do you freely give physical affection like kisses or embraces to show people you care? Um, does interpersonal touch provide you comfort and emotional security? That's a huge one, because especially when it comes to physical intimacy, there is a trust, a security. There's several pieces to that. And the one thing that I learned, I have a colleague of mine that that deals with sex therapy, and one of the things that they said, he was like, the thing that becomes very dangerous for some individuals is that you do have some people sometimes who, like I said earlier, that will weaponize and use it as a way of, quote unquote, getting back at people. And then one day look up and don't even realize they've been doing that for a while. And so now, this is why you get people that get into pornography and they get into other things. Um, and so now the that language gets distorted. So you got to be very careful. This is where it's not just communication, but it's also action. And when you try to do one thing without the other, it most of the time is going to get somebody in trouble. So I wanted to do this, and I was so glad that Jim was able to get on tonight, because I think this is something that is really happening in our community, especially in our Black community, that is causing some serious damage, because we're hearing so many different distorted approaches to love. And even when it comes to these things, that now we've even got to a point where we've telling people you don't need one, or you don't need the other, or one doesn't work, or we got some weird stuff out there right now. And the Bible says that we're going to come to a time where we start seeing this stuff. Romans 8, 1 and 18 talks about, that the man and the woman will leave natural affection, those things that we enjoy. We just went over a lot of that stuff. The desire to give to people, the desire to serve folks, the desire to love, to communicate. You got folks that are leaving this stuff. We got people now that have gone as far as we're talking about buying artificial dolls or having full blown conversations with AI, and that's all they do all the time. And this is where we have gotten crazy. I'm just gonna call it like it is. And so this is where the body of Christ, the kingdom of God, this is where we really need to pray, and this is where we do, like Sarah was saying, we need to have those conversations and have those groups where people can literally sit down and say, "I'm suffering, I'm hurting." Um, the love that I once received, or not receiving it, or maybe there was a loved one that passed away, and I don't know how to go, or it's a lot of things to it. Um, Men getting together and having those conversations and saying, "Yo, yeah, I hurt because this didn't happen. Um, I did, go outside of the marriage because this didn't happen, or I realized that, things died and it was dead, or I just felt like I was in an institution and it was just, I couldn't do it anymore." This is where we got to go back, and have that conversation. So I hope that this was helpful to people. I hope that this, just kind of maybe even kind of stirred the waters for you. I know it helped me a lot, just even just going back and putting this together and stuff. And like Jim was saying, we'll put some other things together. We may just look at each, one by one, and some other things that helps with this. So, and it goes back again to the gospel itself, the family, your relationships, especially your husband and wife, children. Every piece of that emphasize, it should emphasize that of God's kingdom and His gospel, and everything right there that you need really when it comes to ministry is right there in the home. And even in your acts of service, your words of affirmation, gifts, touch, all of that stuff again emphasizes that, and this gifts that God gave to us to give to each other. So thanks for everybody that was here tonight, man. If you got any prayer requests or anything you want to pray about, please, hit us up, man. Hit me up. I want to pray with you. I want to pray for you. If you're someone that, have never heard the gospel before, understand that, there's a living and all powerful God that created all things, and through Christ Jesus created all things for Him, through Him, or by Him. And He created us in the imago Dei. And because of sin that changed everything around, He then sent His only Son to set us free, that we could be transformed and back with Him in relationship and with each other, that we're emphasizing who Christ is and what His kingdom is all about. And you can have that. It's not, you don't have to go to a church. You don't have to wait till Sunday. That can be right here and right now. And so I hope that, like I said, this is helpful. You can catch me on Immersion. You hear it anytime. Like I said, right now it's just Facebook and YouTube, because long story with TikTok. But anyway, let's pray. Lord, we just thank you again for the opportunity. We hope that someone would just get something out of this, and that as it's shared, that others will learn more about you being loved and how we can love each other, and being able to recognize each way that we love each other and how you direct us and guide us in this. We ask this in your name, Jesus. Amen. It's been a pleasure, y'all. It is 11:54. I just looked at the score for all of y'all that's watching Georgia Tech, and how we at 42, 42, 42. Hey, it is what it is, man. Hey, I